पोके का नाम लेकर विदेश मंत्री एस जयशंकर ने दे डाला सबसे विस्फोटक बयान।
Terrorism is antithetical of everything that the world stands for.
पाकिस्तान के उड़े होश, कांप गए प्रधानमंत्री।
A premier example is our neighbor, Pakistan. Its GDP can only be measured in terms of radicalization.
विदेश मंत्री एस जयशंकर जब भी बोलते हैं तगड़ा बोलते हैं, इतना तगड़ा कि पाकिस्तान की जड़ें हिल जाती हैं, चीन का दिमाग चकरा जाता है और पूरी दुनिया उनके भाषण को सुनती है। हाल ही में विदेश मंत्री एस जयशंकर ने यूएन में जबरदस्त भाषण देकर पाकिस्तानी पीएम शहबाज शरीफ की टेंशन को और बढ़ा दिया। टेंशन बढ़नी लाजमी है क्योंकि विदेश मंत्री ने यूएन में दो टूक कह दिया। हमने कल इस मंच पर इसके कुछ विचित्र दावे सुने, इसलिए मैं भारत की स्थिति को पूरी तरह से स्पष्ट कर दूं। पाकिस्तान की सीमा पार आतंकवाद की नीति कभी सफल नहीं होगी और उसे दंड से बचने की कोई उम्मीद नहीं करनी चाहिए। इसके विपरीत एक्शन के रिजल्ट जरूर भुगतने होंगे। हमारे बीच अब केवल पाकिस्तान द्वारा अवैध रूप से कब्जाए गए भारतीय क्षेत्र को खाली करना ही एकमात्र मुद्दा है और निश्चित रूप से पाकिस्तान को आतंकवाद से लंबे समय से लगाव को अब त्यागना होगा।
So let me make India's position perfectly clear. Pakistan's cross-border terrorism policy will never succeed, and it can have no expectation of impunity. On the contrary, actions will certainly have consequences. The issue to be resolved between us is now only the vacation of illegally occupied Indian territory by Pakistan, and of course the abandonment of Pakistan's long-standing attachment to terrorism.
यही नहीं, विदेश मंत्री एस जयशंकर ने आगे कहा कि हम यहाँ मुश्किल समय में जुटे हुए हैं। दुनिया अभी कोविड से उभर नहीं पाई है। पूरे ग्लोबल साउथ में विकास योजनाएं पटरी से उतरी हैं। इसी के साथ विदेश मंत्री ने और क्या कुछ कहा, सुन लीजिए।
The world is witnessing an exceptional period of turmoil. As it is, structural inequities and uneven development have imposed burdens on the global south. But stresses have been aggravated by the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the repercussions of ongoing conflicts, tensions, and disputes. As a result, socio-economic gains of recent years have been rolled back. Resources for sustainable development are severely challenged, and many countries really struggle to make ends meet. Navigating the future appears even more daunting today. At this juncture, it was with a sense of exceptional responsibility that India took up the presidency of the G20. Our vision of one Earth, one family, one future sought to focus on the key concerns of the many, not just the narrow interests of a few.
यूएन में दिया गया विदेश मंत्री एस जयशंकर का पूरा भाषण इस वक्त पूरी दुनिया सुन रही है। उनके पूरे बयान के साथ हम आपको भी छोड़कर जा रहे हैं। सुनिए और बताइए आपका इस पर क्या कुछ कहना है।
Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished members of the General Assembly, greetings and namaskar from 1.4 billion people of Bharat. I congratulate the President of the General Assembly, His Excellency Mr. Philemon Yang, and strongly support the 79th UN General Assembly's theme of leaving no one behind. Madam President, we are gathered here at a difficult time. The world is yet to recover from the ravages of the COVID pandemic. A war in Ukraine is well into its third year. The conflict in Gaza is acquiring wider ramifications. Across the global south, development plans have gone off rails and SDG targets are receding. But there is more. Unfair trade practices threaten jobs, just as unviable projects raise debt levels. Any connectivity that flouts sovereignty and territorial integrity acquires strategic connotations, especially when it is not a shared endeavor. Technology advancements, which have long been a source of hope, are now equally a factor of anxiety. Climate events occur with greater intensity and frequency. Food security is as worrisome as health security. In truth, the world stands fractious, polarized, and frustrated. Conversations have become difficult, agreements even more so. This is surely not what the founders of the United Nations would have wanted of us. Madam President, almost exactly 8 decades ago, the first steps towards the formation of the UN were taken near here at Dumbarton Oaks. Refined thereafter at the Yalta Conference, they were finally approved in San Francisco. The debates of that era centered around how to ensure world peace, a prerequisite for global prosperity. Today, we find both peace and prosperity equally endangered. And that, Madam President, is because trust has eroded and processes have broken down. Countries have extracted more from the international system than they have put into it, enfeebling it in the process. We see that vividly in every challenge and every crisis. Reforming multilateralism is therefore an imperative. The urgency of this call is highlighted by the theme of this session. Leaving no one behind means advancing peace, ensuring sustainable development, and strengthening human dignity. This cannot be delivered by a UN paralyzed when faced with division, conflict, terrorism, and violence. Nor can it be advanced if access to food, fuel, and fertilizer is jeopardized. When capturing markets lacks restraint, it damages the livelihood and social fabric of others. Evasion of climate action responsibilities by the developed undermine the growth prospect of the developing. Indeed, when resource crunch limits the very pursuit of SDG targets, it is not just economies, but human dignity itself that is imperiled. If the world is in such a state, this body must ask itself, how has this come to pass? The problems arise from a combination of structural shortcomings, political calculations, naked self-interest, and yes, disregard for those left behind. It is natural to feel overwhelmed by what we confront now. After all, there are so many dimensions, different moving parts, issues of the day, and the changing landscape. But every change must begin somewhere, and there is no better place than where it all started.